Welcome to PRI. We're up on the exhibition floor right now in the official SRO booth. But we're going to take a little walk down to Lucas Oil Stadium where we have got so many drivers ready to compete at the PRI Esports Arena powered by SRO Motorsports Group America. So let's bring this Fanatec wheel with us and let's go racing.
The rigs are set, the field is stacked. Race you there.
Hello everyone and welcome to the PRI Esports Arena live at the PRI convention here in Indianapolis. My name is DJ Clark alongside Ash Vandelay. We are here live, as we said, at the PRI Esports Arena presented by SRO Motorsports Group, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us here on Twitch, on YouTube, and of course everyone that is here live with us at PRI here today. Absolutely incredible scenes from this convention, and Ash, it's been a real pleasure to be able to watch the racers yesterday, and it's going to be a real pleasure to watch them today.
Yes, today is our pro playoffs. If you were here yesterday, you saw a lot of the great racing. We had a lot of racers from our real-life teams. So for example, Samantha Tan Racing has an esports team, therefore we had some of our drivers here. But today, the pro playoffs, you might recognize some names from the SRO paddock, like Kevin Baum is here as well racing today. He raced last year in the Indianapolis 8-hour esports race as well. So can he keep his title? Because I remember he did significantly well and had a really good time. So hopefully we have some great fun times today. And we want to shout out all the folks who can make this happen. Our sponsors, of course, PRI. Thank you so much for having us out here. So if you're here at PRI at Indianapolis, Indiana, make sure you stop by the Esports Arena. ACC is the platform we are using today. We were doing the Indy Road Course 40-minute sprint. And shout out to our partners AWS, Fanatec, and CrowdStrike. Thank you so much for making sure we can do this and bring the virtual into the reality and kind of meshing, wow, ooh, woof. Luckily, we're just starting meshing those two together as we have a little bit of fun today.
You know, I had the mistake yesterday. I
now
got
it's my
called
turn.
out for
now
it
it's my
online.
turn.
I hope that we get some good comments about that from Ash. But no, it's going to be an absolutely fantastic day of racing. We're very, very excited to get it going. Drivers are in practice right now. Yeah. And, you know, as we talked about yesterday there, as we get a live look at the driver cams, kind of a different experience here for these drivers to get everything set up and going. You know, when we talk about sim racing, when we talk about esports, so much of it is done in the comfort of your own home. That coming into a foreign rig, getting set down, you may not have the same equipment that you do as home. Right. You may not have the same seats, the same feel for everything. So it's not only about setting up the cars and making sure that everything is working well there, it's also about making sure you're comfortable in the rig.
And on top of that, I mean, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, right? The mental game on the track, but you're talking about, look at all these people watching behind us. Just the lights, you have the big screen so you see yourself again, so any mistake you make, you're going to see it on delay on the screen in front of you. So you want to make sure you're driving pretty well. And that can play a huge mental game while you're trying to lay down the laps, be consistent and be on the pace, because it is, again, a 40-minute sprint. Yesterday's race was 60 minutes, so today the mistakes have to be minimal.
Yeah, they really and truly do. And minimal mistakes around a, well, deceptively tricky track, especially considering we're running the older layout of the Indianapolis road course that includes that long curving turn 5 before you come onto Holman Boulevard. That may reduce a little bit of overtaking opportunities, but is a challenge for the drivers to get right. So easy to want to get on the throttle a little bit too early coming through that corner, pick up a little bit of understeer and go out wide. So it's going to be very, very challenging for drivers to do. And it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to do it. But one of the things we're most excited about here, just like we did yesterday, we have got an absolute smorgasbord of cars to be able to run. I wanted to see if I could get that word in there today, so I got smorgasbord in. But we've got a bunch of different cars: McLarens, Audis, Lamborghinis, Acuras, Bentleys, Aston
Plural
Martins,
Bentleys, by the way. We had big fans in the chat for one Bentley, but this time we got two.
Two Bentleys, twice as many fans. Let's go.
So make sure you root for your favorite manufacturer. Let us know in the Twitch and YouTube chat who you're rooting for, who you know here today, and we'd love to read your comments. Please say nice things. But yeah, let us know. We are engaging. That's the whole point of this, to kind of bring, again, the virtual into the reality. And we have a lot of folks also here at PRI, one of them most notably Christian Pericarpi, who talks a lot about how the sim has helped him in racing the Mini Cooper.
Yeah, and Christian obviously on a very, very good tear over the course of this year for that Mini JCW team. But, you know, one of the things that we talk about in particular when we talk about those transitions from the sim world into real life, yes, there's going to be differences. You're not going to be feeling the G-forces that you are in the real car. I was chatting with somebody earlier today about how on some circuits you kind of have to tune the car a little bit differently to make sure that your driver's spine doesn't break over the course of the running. Looking at you, Sebring. As you run over the course of a circuit. But for the most part, you can learn a circuit here on the running. You can learn a circuit on the simulation to be able to get yourself ready. Yes, there's going to be different shadows on the track. There may be some different grip lines that you need to take, but you're going to have a relative idea of where your braking zones are, how the track is going to feel, how one corner is going to flow into the other, and that's really going to help you develop as a driver. And crucially, it will reduce the amount of time you have to spend testing and practicing out on the circuit, and you could focus more in on fine-tuning that car and making sure everything is perfect by the time the green flag flies.
I mean, track knowledge is huge. Learning a track on the sim, like you mentioned, not exactly perfect, but kind of those braking markers. What are you using to denote those brakes? I mean, from the professional to someone so casual as me, I'm very fortunate to take the Skip Barber Racing School class in the Mustang at Sebring, and of course, virtually, you're close to that wall, and I'm fine with it. I'm very confident. No problem. I will yeet through it. But all of a sudden, at Sebring, the instructor's so patient, so kind, but they're like, hey, Ash, get a little closer to that wall. And I was like, no, I cannot do that. And they're like, no, get a little bit closer. Keep pushing, keep pushing. So definitely the virtual world has helped me kind of learn the track and be a little bit more confident when I was doing it. But those instructors really pushed it to the end. And being in that car, it felt so incredible.
Yeah, it certainly does, and I'm very jealous of that, by the way, that you were able to go out at Sebring. I remember actually watching you turn some of those laps and then trying to figure out which car was yours and just having a blast with Kyle up in the booth being able to watch you. Or excuse me, that was a Kyle weekend. I was trying to remember if it was Kyle Heyer or Joe Peak up in the booth with me that weekend. It all runs together. We do a lot of races over the course of the year.
But the confidence kind of skyrockets. You first get in the car, especially not being a racer, being in my basement, sim racing. It's a lot different, but being on the track, turning out those laps, gaining that confidence, seeing that speed increase, seeing the time go down, nothing like it, nothing like it. But here we have some drivers out on the track, kind of doing the remaining free practice session that we have up of the Indy Road Course.
Yeah, and it looks like right now the names to watch out for: Devin Anderson, Phil Bouchard, Ethan Oring, Kyle Lowe, and Kevin Bohm. Of those drivers, got to say, love the fact that 3 of them have been pretty much full-time with SRO Motorsports Group America over the course of the season. Devin Anderson, obviously a Tech Sport Racing driver, so happy to have him. Kyle Lowe has competed in multiple different series with us, pretty much exclusively under that Honda badge. And then Kevin Bohm, obviously 2 seasons ago, the champion into the TC category, jumping on up last year into a very successful effort with Random Vandals Racing in GT4. Always a fun camp to be able to talk to. They're always a blast to be able to be there. And some other names that you may recognize if you are familiar with SRO competition. Celso Neto going to be joining us here today. He is one that has competed in the TC class this year. Had a great couple of runs over the course of the season, able to pick up a win at one point this year, so that was very, very exciting. We were very, very happy to be able to have him. About 16 minutes left to go here in practice. Drivers, once again, just getting the last details of everything put together here at this point. And I think crucially what we're seeing is earlier on we saw a lot of drivers out in clean air trying to get those fast laps down. And right now, Ash, it looks like a lot more of them are trying to be a little bit more conscientious of running everything together and feeling what that dirty air was going to feel like around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
So excuse me for looking down. Kyle did want us to mention that yesterday he put in a little too much fuel in his car, and he did tweet it. He said, I promise I won't race with 100 liters of fuel today.
Oh,
a little bit extra had slowed him down. So
liters,
he's
goodness.
here to make a a statement here to make a mark for today's race and make sure he gets up there on the leaderboard. Kyle, we appreciate you. And yeah, make sure a great way to support your drivers is make sure you follow them on social media. Sponsors look at those numbers. They want to see that engagement. So, I mean, a really quick, free, easy way. Follow your favorite driver on Instagram, Twitter, wherever they are, and they would greatly, greatly appreciate that interaction.
Yeah, they certainly would, and we should say right now, well, let's get the awkwardness out of the way regarding the Honda/Acura NSX. We will be referring to that car as an Acura because this is a North American race. The way everything is broken down is if that is an internationally entered car, it is badged as a Honda. However, on North American soil, it is run as an Acura, which is an exclusive brand to North America. So while your screens may have that little H on it, you will be referring to it as an Acura, and just want to clear that up here at this point. But it looks like here at this point we've got a special guest ready to join us from Williams Esports, one of our very good friends, Javi, ready to come on in. Come on into the booth here and enjoy. There you go. Are you on there? I didn't hear you when you came on in. It looks like it is. Let's try it again. We'll have to see on that. Well,
microphones never work the first time.
They never work. You never know what it is. But Javi from Williams Esports, so happy to have him here. Once we get a microphone, we'll be able to actually, talk to you instead of just talking at you. But Williams has had a stellar year across the board in so many different things. And, I heard a pop behind me, so I think we've got a working microphone. There it is.
It works now.
Yay!
Hi, everyone.
It goes. So, Williams Esports, a landmark year here for you guys.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year as well. A lot of good achievements, which I mean, I'm happy. I'm really happy, and all the team, they have been doing a great job so far, especially in the series in the SRO Esports in Europe, in America. So really proud, so happy with the team, and again, such an awesome job from the guys, and we have to be very proud of them.
Yeah, and Williams really across the board. I mean, showing up here, you'll be at DreamHack later this month, and we saw you guys at Vegas, of course, with Formula One, and had a lot of esports simulation. So what is just like bringing the rigs and bringing Williams to the public and to the crowds and to the masses?
As I said, this year it's been crazy, busy for us. We have been everywhere. Probably, as I said already to some people, when you see some esports, some sim racing, even some motorsports, you would always see someone dressed in some Williams stuff. And in this case, we bring in some simulators here in Indianapolis. We were also in Vegas, trying to be in DreamHack Atlanta next week as well. So again, everywhere, keeping ourselves busy, the team busy, looking forward to all the next events next year and competitions. So yeah, it's been busy, and that's what we like to be, busy.
That's incredible. And with the sim racing, you have a bunch of rigs also at yours. What's kind of a piece of advice maybe you give to some maybe either starting sim racing or trying to improve their skill set in the sim?
I mean, whoever you see, you can see like a variety of simulators here, from a very basic to a more professional sim. It's up to the person, really, what you want to spend here. What you're going to be like competing with series, with competitions. If it's just here for fun, discovering yourself, you're going to be a professional sim racer in future, or just having something, even a professional driver. We had it here yesterday, like Agustin Canapino, and for him, sim racing is not just a hobby, it's also like a professional racing tool for him to be practicing at home, something that we have been seeing with our drivers in Formula One as well. So both of our drivers, Alex Albon and Logan, they have a simulator at home where they practice, especially those tracks that they have to be discovering along the year. Vegas, no one knew about Vegas, no one knew the layout, the breaking points, everything itself, it's something they have to be discovering in the sim. So again, inviting all those people, to get a simulator, not only for the hobby, also if you're a racing driver or a karting driver, that could be like a really useful tool for your career.
And you do have the Williams car out here, which is
100%.
very cool to see. So
we have the F1 car as well here.
So if anyone wants a DRS fine by touching it, just let us know.
A little bit of a throwback joke, but I'm here for it. Well, I mean, 2023, obviously a landmark year, and a couple of Simi Award nominations for the team and for your drivers, which is absolutely fantastic to see. What does 2024 hold in store for Williams Esports?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I mean, hopefully we can be as busy as we are this year, and obviously, being as successful as we've been in this 2023 season. But I mean, we have seen after COVID, everything getting back to normal, all the competitions, all the series, basically what we had online is getting now back to LAN events, and especially like these events, like it's our first time here. So hopefully we can see like new places, new adventures next year, and not only for sim racing, also for motorsport, to welcome sim racing and esports where we can be here not only like as exhibitors, as competing as well. So I don't know, I'm just looking forward to see what's happening in 2024. We have already like an idea of some series and competitions, but again, always opening to surprise and last minute decisions to join new events.
Well, Javi, it's absolutely wonderful to have Williams' presence here. It's absolutely wonderful to have you here. Once again, congratulations on just an incredible 2023, and we'll see you down the road in 2024, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, that was our good friend Javi there from Williams Esports. We are so happy to have him, and they are such a great bunch. They are some of my favorite people to be able to work with, and full confession of conflict of interest, I do also do a little bit of work for them on the side, so I have to be. You shouted out some of them earlier, so. But there, as we take a look, that's a familiar livery working their way around the track for Kyle Lowe. That's Racer's Edge, the Racer's Edge Motorsports Acura, the number 93 that we're used to seeing out on track for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Good to see them out there. I know we're not supposed to play favorites up here in the commentary booth, Ash, but that is one of my favorite cars.
Speaking of Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, do not forget to check out the 2024 calendar for America, Asia, Europe, and Australia. Definitely go to a race. I think it's well worth the money and shouldn't be as pricey as some other race series. So you have so much access in some iconic tracks. Sonoma is what kicks off the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS weekend. And you get 2 full days of racing from some amazing, amazing series and drivers, the access, the garage, everything. I mean, I can't talk so good enough about it. Very, very awesome and exciting. So make sure you check that out. And of course, our esports is side by side across America, Europe, and Asia, and Australia. So check that calendar out as well for 2024. And this weekend, IGTC 12-hour golf.
Yeah, the golf
never
12
stopping.
hours. Yeah, we never ever stop. It's quite insane. But we've got to talk about some of the additions for next year in 2024. Yes. Obviously, the big news for IGTC, the 24 hours of the Nürburgring coming in, and obviously the addition of the Nürburgring to Assetto Corsa Competizione. Very excited to see that come into play, as well as a little bit of moving around on the SRO Motorsports Group America calendar. GT America making its return back to the Long Beach Grand Prix. Selfishly, I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm very excited about that because it means I don't have to get on a plane. I can just take a little drive down to Long Beach. Also, moving Sebring up in the year. Hopefully that's going to help the weather out a little bit, and hopefully we won't have the sort of freak hurricane rain like we had this year. And also, one that I am so excited for, we're going to Barber Motorsport Park, one of the most premier racing facilities in the country. I've never been there, Ash, and I cannot wait to experience that.
It's, again, all these iconic tracks that you race in your simulator, regardless of what your simulator of choice is. Our piece of advice is find one that works for you. We're here sponsored by ACC Racing and all of our esports championships, but definitely try them out. I think a Rising Tide raises all ships, and ACC has been a great partner here for the SRO team, and you can try out all these tracks on your sims, which is so fun to watch. Kind of be side by side with your favorite drivers, compare your times, compare their times, see where they're gaining time and whatnot.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, for anyone that's a motorsports fan, even if you are just a fan, go get yourself a simulator. Even if it is just cheap and it straps onto your desk, and you've got pedals underneath, and you're racing on a laptop. Get a simulator, because what it does is it gives you so much more of an appreciation of what these drivers have to do. Yes, as we said earlier, you're not going to be experiencing the G-force or some of the push and pull around the track necessarily, but what you will be able to experience is the reaction times, how quickly you've got to get the car to change direction, how hard it is around some corners to get that rotation, to fight the understeer, to break away from that oversteer, figure out all of those different things, and it's going to make you a more informed racing fan. And the more informed you are as a racing fan, the bigger and better of a fan you're going to be.
Informed is such a great word, and for me, it's just, of course, I've respected all drivers, but then being in the sim and luckily taking that skip barber school, just the amount of respect that drivers I have for them and just doing what they do, the reaction times, the mental game, the physicality of it all, it really comes down to all of that, and it's crazy what you can experience and kind of relate to them and empathize when the certain mistakes are made. You're like, oh gosh, I did that on the sim. I completely can't imagine what happens in IRL in the mind. And a pro tip, if you are using it strapped to a desk, a simulator wheel, which I did, under your gaming chair, put a pair of sneakers. The rubber helps it when you're braking really hard. So just FYI, we've all started there. So
it does indeed. I'll actually share the story that I had when I first found out that I was going to be starting to do some work with SRO Motorsports Group America. I was at the Music City Grand Prix. This was back in 2021. I was there as a fan, and because of my work, because of the simulator work I had done on ACC, I was sitting there talking about all of the cars running around the track and doing all of this, and I remember very vividly during the GT America race, I said, it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of if the McLaren attempts to kill you. And sure enough, one lap later, coming out of turn 3, McLaren did a lovely little pirouette and went right into the wall, and all of the fans that were around me thought I was a racing genius. And it was because of my work on the sim that I was able to do that. And I'll tell you what, before I go out to a race, I'm on ACC. I am preparing on ACC as a commentator so I can better learn the track and better learn the characteristics of each and every car at the racing circuit.
Absolutely, we kind of called it, and I'm sure everyone understands. Lap 1, turn 1, anything can happen with the incidents which happened yesterday with Chris Sievert getting out, losing a bunch of positions, but luckily it was a great race and charging his way back up, and some great fights we saw of him getting back to P2 after qualifying second.
Yeah, certainly did, and I've got to say, we talked yesterday a lot. Jahid Hutchison absolutely able to dominate the field, and in practice, we kind of thought that that might be the case at about a 6/7 of a second advantage on the rest of the field. Ash, today, it looks like we are not in for the same whatsoever, because right now, Phil Bouchard, Devin Anderson, and Ethan Ohrring are separated by just about a 1/10 of a second. Indeed, if you go down through the entire field here at this point, we are talking about the top 8 separated by a single second. This is really pretty remarkable. I think we are in for an absolute cracker of a race here today.
So that start is definitely going to be important, solidifying that position in the turn 1, and maybe some defensive, offensive driving. Some of these folks have never raced with each other before or raced super competitively, especially in an environment like this behind me. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. We do have a comment from chat from Sedar. Welcome from the Twitch. Even though I just got a sim rig as an early Christmas present. So happy holidays. Congrats on your early gift there. I hope you're turning out some laps, and maybe for the rest of you, maybe an idea, put it on the little Christmas wish list for some Fanatec and some ACC there.
I certainly have a few Fanatec bits and bobbles on my Christmas list, I can tell you that. That is the one problem that I will warn you. If you do become a sim racer, it's never enough. You will always need that next thing. You will always want that next thing, whether it's a new set of pedals or a new steering wheel. Be ready, because it is an addiction. And
forget about the hardware. We have a lot of folks wearing the gloves, the socks, because I am definitely a glove wearer. I know it's personal preference. But the accessories don't stop. The hardware buying doesn't stop. The shirts, the brands, the manufacturer shirts you start wearing once you find a car that you love, especially in GT3 racing. It is such a fun community to be a part of.
It is, and as some of my friends in LA will be ones to attest, they do not think I own anything that doesn't have racing branded on it in some way, shape, or form. It's either Indiana or racing. That is my wardrobe.
Or Indiana and racing. With Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Indy 500, of course, have to shout them out.
And I also just have a shirt that has the outline of the state of Indiana. It says, go fast, turn left. So, it's all coming together beautifully.
Oh, I need that shirt. I'm originally from New York State, so I definitely need some more Watkins, Glen merch. I'm just East Coast gal through and through.
There you go.
We have some fans in the chat as well. Yes, Matt Brewer currently in P4. Jake holding his own. Yes, let us know who you're rooting for. You might recognize these names from either streamers that you might watch, professional drivers that you might watch in series, or folks in your communities and your sim racing life. I know a lot of you are part of a lot of Discord, so make sure you check out the names because you definitely know at least one of them, so make sure you're rooting for them throughout the 40-minute sprint race that is coming up shortly. After this practice, we'll be doing some qualifying, and then it'll be that 40-minute race.
Yeah, and I think qualifying here going to be relatively important, although as we saw yesterday, passing is ample here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. It's not necessarily like a Sonoma, where passing's really difficult and that qualifying has a lot of impetus on it. You are able to get passes done here when you're able to keep going, but the good news here is that we have 1 minute coming across here for practice, and that means we are almost ready to go qualifying.
And then when you get into the race, I mean, we were talking about it yesterday, the patience game, right? But here's a 40-minute sprint. You don't have that additional 20 minutes of 60, so maybe you want to drive a little bit more aggressively than you usually do and kind of just complete those passes as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you want to get that, you want your blood up a little bit. You want to be a little bit more aggressive. You want to definitely want to be able to fight through it here as much as possible. As there we see some drivers pulling off to the side there with only about 20 seconds left to go. Plenty of drivers, though, trying to get that last little bit that they can in.
And some folks here, noticing some folks in the background. Yeah, come on in. We're at Indianapolis, Indiana. PRI. Thank you so much for PRI for having us. This PRI Esports Invitational, this pro playoff. It's huge. A lot of folks are walking around. There's so many more sim rigs than there were last year, and I think it's so important to talk about the sim racing community kind of coming together, growing, of course, during the pandemic as we were all sitting inside. So it's incredible to see all of us come out of our shells, come out and socialize and hang out, and look at all the hardware that we have here, all the sim rigs, people just talking about it, trying it, learning about it. I think it's such a cool community to be part of, and it's really, really growing, and you see it at every single race you go to. I've been to NASCAR, Formula One, SRO. The rigs are plentiful at every single racetrack you attend.
Well, and if you're here at PRI, I mean, I don't know if you can see behind us, but we kind of have one of the best views in the world. We are in the bowels of Lucas Oil Stadium. You can walk right out onto the field here and be able to see where the Indianapolis Colts play their home games, take a look at the Ring of Honor, be able to do all of that, take that in. We've got the e-karting classic going on behind us as well. So it's a really cool area. We are sort of in esports and EV mecca down here in Lucas Oil. It's pretty great.
We're talking about a little about this yesterday. I mean, what other sport can you really go from virtual to reality? I mean, a lot of folks were talking about Christian Procarpis here. I see him. Hi, Christian. And we're talking about how sim racing has helped them so much. And so many drivers, as you know, have talked about it. Tony Kanaan was on stage yesterday. Samantha Tan was talking about it today. Robert Wickens. So it's been incredible to see that move from virtual to reality, as we keep stating. But what other sport allows you to do that? Because I know we're at an NFL stadium, but some really great Madden players out there, I'm sorry, you might not never make it to a team.
No, that doesn't exactly translate over, but the art of racing, there is a little bit of a one-to-one in simulation, so that is especially cool. But it looks like the testing is over and all of the testing boo-boos have been taken care of. We are ready to go racing here, or rather, we are ready to go qualifying here. 15 minutes on the clock. Looks like Devin Anderson's going to be one of the first ones out there for that Tech Sport racing machine in the McLaren, getting ready to head out here. And we should at this point mention that we do have a balanced performance here, custom made for this series. So everything should be relatively equal.
Balance of performance, BOP or BOP, depending on how you'd like to talk about it. I'd like to say BOP because it gives a little fun twitch emote in the chat. But let us know where you're watching from, and thanks so much for tuning in. Of course, we are here in Indianapolis, Indiana at PRI. We have a lot of folks watching, but you might be in the Twitch chat at twitch.tv/SRO Motorsports or our YouTube channel at GT World. Not only do we stream our esports, but we stream our IRL races of all across the board to start from 24 hours and start a little bit of incident here on qualifying, but no worries. Going to be a quick recovery here for the OnlyFans Lambo.
Yeah, that's Ethan Oring there, and that's a little bit of a spin coming out of turn 6. Not exactly the hardest thing to do there. There's a big exit curb coming off of that corner. You can get the car a little bit unsettled, especially in that mid-engine Lamborghini. That car likes to rotate, which is great through medium and slower speed corners. It's really going to help it kind of twitch around, but if you get a little bit of a loss of traction, that's going to send things around. We take a live look, though, at Kyle Lowe there for the Racer's Edge Motorsports number 93. A little bit of a twitch there for that Acura, and that machine also another mid-engine machine, not nearly as twitchy as the Lamborghini, but I'll tell you what, it looks aggressive. I just love the way that thing looks.
You're talking about it today because we do have a simulator here if you are at the arena to try out yourself, but something I always say to myself when I start sim racing, cold tires, cold brakes, heavy car.
Yep.
So something to denote as these folks start putting down laps and warming those things up, but make sure as soon as you start, when you're putting down a lap, maybe brake a little earlier than you intend to.
Yeah, and thankfully here on ACC, we do have some up-to-date tire information. You do get that sort of green tire graph that'll show up at the bottom of your screen and let you know exactly how the tires are performing and how the brakes are and things like that. But that is something that they're going to have to keep in mind here, is right now Jack Null working their way around for JP Motorsports, another one of those McLaren drivers out there. Clearly the mid-engine cars being very, very preferred here at this point, so they're going to be working and trying to do everything that they can. In contrast to those mid-engine, slimmed-down machines, we've got to talk about the Bentleys.
The Boatleys.
The Boatleys.
There's 2 of them today, and I think they look really cool on track, but there are 2 of them. DJ, talk to us a little about the Bentleys and what we saw yesterday.
Well, they tend to be a little bit of straight line monsters. They're bigger cars, they're heavier cars, so they're not going to slice through the air necessarily with as much ease as, say, the Ferrari 296 or this McLaren 720S that you're going to see. But the grunt of those engines are clear to hear as they go. And the other thing about them that makes them a little bit different, front engine car, which means that there's going to be a little bit more understeer, they're going to be a little bit more predictable, you're going to be able to lean on the car a little bit more through the corners. But the other thing that's really fascinating about them, Ash, and it's frankly one of the reasons why I can't drive them, is the steering wheel's on the wrong side of the car. And I know our director, Mike Yao, is going to be yelling at me. Mike is from across the pond, and he's going to say, no, it's on the correct side of the car. No, it's not. It's on the right side of the car. And that is a different sensory experience when you're driving. We're so used to left-hand drive for so many of these vehicles. The Bentley being on the right, it actually changes your depth perception.
We were talking a little yesterday as well, and some comments in the chats, how each of these cars kind of have their own personality. I personally like the Merc GT3. I feel like I can throw it around those corners, but I've been learning with the Porsche a little bit. But the Porsche is very unforgiving with little mistakes, so it's making sure that I'm hitting my brake marks exactly, perfectly fine, and all of the pro stuff of sim racing, and especially the engine sounds as well. You were talking about yesterday when we were at the track, when you're commentating, you can tell what car is coming down just by the noise from chat. The V12 Aston is the best sounding car in the game, hands down.
I have a hard time disagreeing with that, chat. I really and truly do. Just a quick update on the times that are coming across the board right now. Devin Anderson doing a fantastic job there in that Tech Sport Racing number 22 McLaren. It's going to find them on top of the charts. Then it's going to be Ethan Oring in P2 in the Lamborghini, about 0.2 of a second off. Then Phil Bouchard in the Audi, only about 0.02 of a second, make that 100th of a second off of Oring there. Then we're going to have a great time put in by Matt Brewer. That'll bump that car up. Kyle Lowe says, wait a minute, I've got something to say, as the number 93 Acura finds themselves into P4, as there goes Phil Bouchard, and I throw my pen at Ash. Phil Bouchard comes up to the top of the charts.
It's interesting to see what was happening during practice. I wasn't sure what kind of times we were getting. We had different names on the leaderboards, but qualifying, no one is holding back, and that kind of makes me super excited for the race itself. If you're looking at these times from P1, let alone all the way to P8, a little less than a second over here to P7, excuse me. So it's going to be some very close racing, especially, again, that turn 1, lap 1, very infamous, everyone knows. So having that clean race, consistency, getting away, and putting down those laps for 40-minute sprints. Remember, 40 minutes, no pitting, is going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, very analogous here to a GT America or a TC America race as they go around. Kevin Bohm puts in his best time there. That's going to be a time of 8th place for the 04 CrowdStrike Racing with Riley Motorsports machine. Good time there to be able to get in. And Kevin hasn't really put in a time yet, so I wonder if that's a little bit of a warm-up lap. One driver who has put a couple of times down, that's going to be Matt Brewer here in the Hyperion Racing number 26 Lamborghini, working their way through the last couple of corners. Half a second up on time, and that could be very, very close. That could bring him into the top 3.
And I'm glad Kyle Lowe, like we mentioned before, added a little extra fuel yesterday during his race run, so definitely making up for it today, now qualifying P4. And Kevin Boehm, Paul Newman might call it hustling, you know, when you put a little slow lap at the beginning, and all of a sudden Kevin's going to be up there, and I think he's someone to watch out for with such experience. I mean, you mentioned him moving up in classes for the past couple of years, so it's incredible to watch Kevin throughout these series growing and growing and growing. And Kevin is also a huge regular on our SRO Pit Pass show that we have here on the channels on Thursdays during the season, where we interview drivers. He was also one of our experts during the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa that we had, and we're also live streaming here as well this past summer.
Yeah, very jealous, by the way, that you got to attend the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. Michael Hickman in one of the Bentleys is going to come across the line right now. That'll be 12th place for the number 97 as flames spin out on the side and they bring that car down to speed to be able to get their way through turn one. Kevin Boehm going to give another crack at it here in 9th place, and that CrowdStrike by Riley machine works their way onto the front straightaway, crosses over the line of bricks, and it looks like that's going to be a minor improvement for Boehm. That'll jump him up into 7th place at the expense of, it looks like Celso Neto there and Mike Organ. In
the chat here we have, I thought this was real. So shout out to ACC for that incredible graphics here. Yes, this is an eSports Invitational, or Pro Playoffs here at PRI, the PRI Esports Arena presented by SRO. But we do stream our esports and our real race series for SRO Motorsports on both our Twitch and our YouTube.
Yeah, we do indeed, and if you want to listen along to the wonderful commentary provided by our very own Ryan Marine and Calvin Fish, jump on over to the YouTube for that. And if you want to do a watch along, well then go to Twitch, because our very own Ash is the one that leads those along, and I got to tell you, it's fantastic to listen to.
I appreciate that so much, and a lot of folks might be actually wondering why someone would watch a watch along, but it's a lot of getting folks into the sport. It's so important, kind of defining. Some folks come in not realizing it's real, if it's esports, right, distinguishing that for them, explaining what SRO is, GT World Challenge America, GT3s, GT4s, TCs, having someone just explain that all to you in a no judgment zone. We're here to chat and hang out and just watch some sports car racing, which we all love.
Yeah, I mean, there is nothing better in the world than good classic sports car racing. Mike Organ on your screen, though, for MO Motorsports in the number 10 Bentley. Going to come through that turn 5-6 that we talked about, that long left-hander that doesn't really exist now on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but still is there on the sim, so we're happy to see that. The standings right now, it's going to be the number 73 of Phil Bouchard, followed by Devin Anderson in the number 22, Ethan Oring, then Matt Brewer, and Kyle Lowe, your top 5. Eli Singh in the Ferrari finds himself in P6. Then it's Kevin Boehm in the Ford CrowdStrike by Bradley Mercedes. Celso Neto and Mike Organ round out your top 9 here with, it looks like, Chris Walsh in the 104 Porsche that you were talking about not too long ago in 10th place. Here is Jacob Little, though.
Sound familiar. Yes, very lucky. Jacob is from one of my community members in the Vandalay Discord, and we're so glad that he's here kind of representing and hanging out, and we love that livery. It looks great. So very cool to, again, bringing that community together, and that's kind of what sim racing is about, and motorsports, right? We all run into our friends at the racetrack, some of us camping next to each other depending what races we're going to, so it kind of creates a really big community, especially when you're at the track and you're just hanging out, again, watching some great racing.
The best times, the best stories I have in my life have been camping out at races, having a good time, as you said, Ash. There is nothing quite like an experience at a motor race, because you go around and you just enjoy talking to people, and then inevitably you find in the camp there is, as my friends would coin it, there's always the DJ, the person who knows way too much about racing for their own good, and they will go off, and I will find that person, we'll go off and talk for a while everybody else has a few drinks and enjoys themselves, and we'll be over in the corner bickering about who's a better driver.
It's a great community aspect with friends. I mean, speaking of the volunteers of the track, if you've been to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a lot of folks volunteering there, working there, it's because their grandparents work there, their parents work there, their siblings work there. It's a great community aspect. Neighbors, friends, relatives, whatever it is, really brings everyone together. Talking, especially at Sebring, where we race here with Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Talking to Sebring, there's like, hey, I've been working here for 12 years, 15, 20, or 25, you know, and it's just something that means so much to these communities, having these major events come in, having us come in and kind of spread the knowledge and the joy of racing and their track and their history.
Yeah, most certainly, and obviously being an Indianapolis native, the events that take place at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway very near and dear to my heart, and you wear that like a badge of honor. You wear that, I've been coming to this event for 20 years. That is a badge of honor that you wear. I remember a couple of years ago coming to an event and they had actual name cards that they would give out and said, I have been to X number of races. Chris Walsh here in the Porsche Karas race team in the number 104, working their way around in the number 10 machine. Again, this Porsche rear engine, a completely different design philosophy than any other car on our grid. But I gotta tell you what, they have perfected it over the past 60 years. This is a car that theoretically shouldn't work, but my goodness gracious, does it ever.
These times, we were saying from P1 to P7 initially were less than a second, but now that's actually from P1 to P9. It's incredibly close. And we're laying down our final qualifying laps with 2 minutes left. And up next, we're looking at a 40-minute sprint race. And something that our videographers and photographers are talking about is how focused our drivers look. They're trying to get some photos right. Understandably that these guys are super concentrated and focused at the task at hand, but it's very interesting to see their focus faces. Everyone's got one, and you can definitely tell a little bit about what's going on the track with some reactions, and so glad to have our webcams up as we see some drivers are super ecstatic when they cross that finish line, some drivers super frustrated at small mistakes, but the emotions is what makes the people. It kind of brings that interesting aspect into racing.
Yeah, and another one of my favorite liveries here, Turner Motorsports working their way around. Casey Hull behind the wheel of the car right now in that number 96. Always kind of that different look there from the Liqui-Moly machine. Casey's going to cross over the line there. It looks like 15th place. That's not going to improve. Here is Jacob Little, as Twitch chat said a little bit earlier, the V12 Aston, one of the best sounding cars on the grid. 4/10 up here at this point. This could be an improvement for Jacob.
And a minute left here in qualifying. Yes, we do have live timing. If you're in the Twitch chat, do exclamation live timing to follow along with what DJ and I are not only looking at and referencing from time to time, but what our drivers are putting down in their laps.
All right, there comes Jacob across the line right now. Oh, it doesn't look like that's going to be an improvement. He'll stay in 12th. Here is Ethan Oring going to cross over the line in the Lamborghini. Couple of drivers. Wow. There's an improvement for Oring. That'll bump him up into P2.
Anyone notably standing out to you, DJ, that we should be looking for in the race as we've watched practice all day this morning and now finishing up qualifying here in the next 20 seconds?
Well, I really think anybody in about the top 7 here are particularly good standouts as Kevin Bohm puts in a good time here in P6. I was about to actually mention Kevin as a driver to watch out for, a little bit farther down than I would have expected him to be, but I think Ethan Oring, Devin Anderson in the McLaren and the Lamborghini in 2nd and 3rd, they're going to be one to watch out for. Off of the start, though, don't count out 4th place here of Matt Brewer. Jacob Little also going to be one to watch out for, maybe try to work their way up forward. I think this is going to be a fascinating start to this race, but qualifying is done here. Checker flag is in the air, but we're going to follow the same rules that we follow in SRO competition. Drivers will be able to finish their hot lap.
Some folks in the chat saying Matt Brewer is one to watch. Let's go, Jake. Yes, let us know who you're rooting for. Manufacturers, I know a lot of folks are dedicated to the manufacturers and the OEMs, which is incredible to see in motorsports, and as well as folks that you might know. Again, these is our pro playoffs here at the PRI Esports Invitational, PRI Esports Arena, presented by SRO. Thank you so much for watching. You are probably either on the Twitch chat at twitch.tv/SRO Motorsports or the YouTube. Welcome on in from GT World, or you're here with us at PRI. Hello, everyone. Can I get a wave? Yes,
hey.
We got a wave. Tough crowd.
Tough crowd. No, it's wonderful to see everybody here at PRI. Is there Matthew Brewer doing a little bit of a, oh my goodness gracious, I was going to say a victory lap. That's live, folks. Brewer putting in a stalking lap at the end, and that's going to be the driver of the number 26 Lamborghini up to the top, unsettling Phil Bouchard by a mere 95 thousandths of a second.
And to explain how quickly those 95 thousandths of a second is to someone who maybe watches pro sports, but of course, in a lot of sports that you watch, whether it's, I mean, the Olympics are coming up next year, that's something super they show that very well. Everything matters here in sim racing. Your braking marker, how hard you're braking, your trail braking, every little variable accounts to those thousandths of a second and hopefully increasing that more and more. And when you do that consistently, you build those gaps to the person behind you.
Yeah, and we have to remember here, this is about a 14-turn road course there or thereabouts, about 2.5 miles or so, a little bit less than 2.5 miles at Indianapolis. And so the fact that you are able to be within a 1/10 of a second is absolutely remarkable. And as you said, Ash, try to be able to time that out on your phone. Try to be able to click start and stop within 95 thousandths of a second. It's a lot harder than you think it is. It is ridiculously quick. And to be with that close over that distance is very remarkable. All right, we are going to take a little bit of break from racing here at this point, but don't worry, folks. Ash and I are going to stay on with you, but we are going to take a break away here from the racing aspect of it, let the drivers have a little bit of a cool down after that 20 minutes of qualifying, as well as we got to get the server set up and get ready to go racing.
We all know what that's like, especially some of us in the sim world, doing those sim racing special events that are happening soon throughout the year again for 2024. And something I wanted to note also is I wish we'd had heart rate monitors on the track, and I know a lot of folks will be like, you're not supposed to race stressed or with intense heart rate, but I'm doing it anyway. You know, it's some of us with anxiety, we just got it. So interesting to see how Matt crossed that line and in no sweat. He looks so calm, looks so ready to take that on and put down such a great lap. You guys don't see us all the time on the stream, but I'm always turning around watching going, what are they thinking? What's going on? So it's great to see that Matt, for him, is just another day in the sim rig. He did an incredible job, and putting down those practice laps have really shown that improvement.
Yeah, and I want to give a big shout out. You can kind of see behind us right now as they work their way on through, including the red shirt just walking on by us here at this point. This is our amazing team behind the scenes, Mike Yao, Taylor Bedell, so many great people to be able to put this together. But more importantly, we have got the pole man himself, Matt Brewer. You got to talk me through that last lap, my friend.
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know where that came from. I've been struggling all week in practice. Get here this morning, started P2 and first practice, and I was just trying to nail the laps as best as I could. It wasn't looking good there at first, but then the last lap was just magic. Got it done.
Well, I mean, you know, we're talking about here the different types of cars that we've got. Do you think that Lamborghini, the mid-engine design, is that particularly advantageous to Indy?
I wouldn't really say so. It's just down to the setup work. I've been working with Ethan O-Ring on the setup for this race, so he's been a huge help. He actually did most of that, so I got to credit him quite a bit. But no, there's really no difference between most of the manufacturers around here. But then you go to a track like Monza where it's top end speed. That's a track where you'll see something like that.
You mentioned the practice that you did before coming here. What are you looking for when you're practicing? How are you getting those improvements on your time as you're learning the track and learning the car and putting those two things together?
It's just trying to be more consistent, trying to do full race stints at a time, make sure you're limiting the amount of mistakes you make. And I'm not really worried about the lap times when I'm practicing. It's just keeping it on track.
Well, now, with that in mind, talking about the full race stints and that type of thing, dealing with a 40-minute race as opposed to a traditional 60-minute race here for SRO Esports events, does that change your mentality at all coming into the shorter time?
All I can say is it's going to be flat out the whole way. All 40 minutes, there's going to be no backing down, full send the whole time.
That's what we like to hear.
So what can we expect from you from turn one, lap one? As we know, we've constantly been joking in the sim racing world, you know, and sometimes it gets a little contentious. Yeah. So what's your plan for the start?
Take it safe, try to hold P1 as long as I can. I know some of these guys are insanely quick on race pace. I'm not sure I'm quite up there with them, but I'll try my best.
Well, what's going to be a good result for you?
Podium.
Podium?
Yeah,
all right. Well, hopefully I will be able to shout out your name rather loudly when we do the podium ceremony. So,
awesome.
My friend, congratulations. It was a great run.
Thank you.
Congrats on that pole. Thank you so much. Oh, once again, Matt Brewer, I always love that, Ash, when it's just sort of I don't know where that came from. That's one of my favorite answers in all of racing, because you could just kind of tell that the drivers are just as startled as we are when those times come out of nowhere.
And I know getting some friends and family who are not into sim racing or maybe even IRL racing might be a little bit difficult sometimes, because you hear that, oh, they're just going in circles and turning left, whatever it is, whatever motorsport you enjoy. However, moments like these where you're kind of waiting to get that time as they cross the finish line, or sometimes you see their sector times and there's purple and they're increasing and doing better, those are the moments we really have to highlight for folks who might be a little newer to sim racing or a little bit newer to motorsport, because that's where the drama and the tensions are. Those little variables, that time of 9,000ths of a second, God, it's just, I don't know how to explain to someone how important those variables and making sure you're hitting everything perfectly and accurately and consistently.
And by the way, and a quick apology there to our listeners, it's not a V12 Aston. I thought that sounded a little bit strange. It's a V8 Aston. And so that is the sound that it is making. Sometimes even we make a few mistakes like that, but as of right now, we are waiting for that session to come up. And once again, if you're watching at home on Twitch, feel free to engage in the conversation. You can see everybody working around here. And as I was saying before we had Matt come on with us, we really have to thank this incredible team that is working behind the scenes. Not only did we get nearly 20 of them to try to get all of these sims set up here today and over the course of this weekend, but that includes setting up the racing server, setting up everything that is involved with it, and we've all been a part of that team to get it to go, but we could not do it without everybody behind the scenes.
Thank you so much to PRI, again, for having us here at the PRI show here in Indianapolis, Indiana. So if you're here, come on, stop by the esports arena. But we got to shout out CrowdStrike, AWS, Fan Attack, of course, and ACC, and of course, SRO for having us. And make sure you check out the SRO calendar, esports, and real-life racing. Make sure there's not a race near you soon in 2024.
Well, and we are going across the country. We'll be out in Sonoma. We'll be in Long Beach, California as well. Then we will, I'm going to mess up the schedule a little bit, so bear with me in terms of where we go and when. But we'll, of course, be at Sebring and Circuit of the Americas, Road America, Virginia International Raceway, Barber, as well as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So kind of hit all corners of the states there if you want to be able to come and check us out. We've got the West Coast swing. We've got some races in the Heartland, as well as races out on the East Coast and in the South. And as I said, highly, highly recommend you be able to get all of them to come to these races. They're so much fun. And as you said, Ash, it's you get 5 races over the course of one day, and then we pack
do it all over again.
Exactly. It's fantastic.
Sunday, and we pack it all up. And traveling circus sometimes what we call motorsports, because you get do it all over again next weekend and such like that. So make sure you come check it out. And Indy is especially one of my favorite races for the Indy 8 Hour and all the series that we support. But the Indy 8 Hour, partially also a night race, which is beautiful to watch. You have the GT3s, those brake rotors getting glowy. Let's move on in here. We have our next interview. Yeah, welcome on in.
Hello, hello.
How are you doing, Mike? Welcome to the booth here, my friend.
Thank you.
Ninth place, maybe not the best run for you, but how you feeling?
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. We're done here, right? No, I was quick in practice this morning. P1 in practice, was feeling really good about that. And then, yeah, just couldn't get a clean lap together. Dropped a tire here and there, lost a lap time. It's probably had half a second more, which would have put me, I think, top 5. So I don't think qualifying was reflective of the pace that we should have, but that's why we race, right?
Well, I mean, do you think it's going to be a little bit more indicative of race pace? Do you think you're going to be able to come alive a little bit more over the course of that 40-lap run?
Yeah, I hope so. I didn't work real hard on a quali setup particularly, so I'm hopeful that, if we can keep a nice consistent pace right around that window where we're at right now, the race might come to us. P9, a little worried about the start, kind of right in the middle. I might get caught up in something in the early part, but hey, if I make it through clean through turn 1, anything can happen. So it's a long race. The big Bentley's looking good, so that's right. How can you not love it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know we have some folks watching, of course, and folks here who are very familiar with sim racing and setups. But if you're not familiar with setups, can you talk to us a little about setups and what are you changing? What are the little things that is so important to a race like this?
Sure. So it's a lot about comfort in the car, right? A lot of sim races, whether you do sprint races, endurance races, I wanted to be comfortable in the car, so I kind of tried a few of the different models, and the Bentley just felt the most comfortable for me. I'm not really affiliated with any manufacturer currently, but opportunities are out there. So I went with the Bentley. It was pretty easy to drive. You have to use a lot of curbing here at Indianapolis, so the car was pretty compliant with that and set it up a little bit softer to deal with that as well. As we struggled with, say, front grip, if you soften the car up, it's a little bit more compliant from an overall grip level. So it's a high downforce track, so I'm running, a lot of downforce and as much grip as I can get away with. It's a pretty dusty, even in real life, it's very reflective. ACC does a good job of showing how low grip the track is in real life. So trying to get as much grip out of the car mechanically and aerodynamically as you can is useful in the sim and in real life.
And definitely setups can sometimes make or break the car.
100%.
I mean, setups are sometimes very, very private. If you see a streamer ever streaming or a driver ever driving, if they have a virtual setup, they'll sometimes hide it or just switch screens.
Yeah.
Just to make sure folks don't see it because it matters so much.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Well, I mean, you said at the start of the race, obviously lap 1, turn 1 is going to be the big flashpoint. That's where we're all going to be looking at. With you starting farther back in the field, does that amp up your aggression there in the lap 1, or are you going to start that a little bit later?
Well, the plan is to just survive. So I'm in P9, going to be on the inside to start. If there's opportunities there, we'll see what comes. But if you're turned backwards by turn 3, it's over already. So I'm hoping to just survive. The guys right in front of me I know pretty well from racing in real life, so there's some built-in respect there. A lot of the other folks I don't know super well, but that pack and kind of the 4 through 9 area is a lot of real-life racing folks that share the paddock and SRO. So hopefully there'll be some respect and it won't be too ugly on the first lap.
Well, we wish you luck when you get onto the binders there going.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you out on the track here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, that was Mike, your 9th place qualified there, Mike Organ. And now I believe we are ready to have come on in, Michael Hickman. You are in 11th place, maybe not the best showing there for you. How you feeling?
Yeah, a little bit of a fuel miscalculation for qualifying, but we'll just try to make up for it for the race. And like the other one was saying there, we're just all about surviving pretty much. So we'll see what we can do in the Boatley.
Boatley number 2. Now, starting a little bit farther back in the field, does that change your mentality as a driver once we get out of the turn 1 sort of complex? Do you have to be a little bit more aggressive, or are you going to let the race come to you?
Yeah, a little bit more aggression is fine, but not too much. It's kind of more like applying pressure to anybody in front of you that you can, and maybe you can force them into a mistake, and then you don't have to work so hard for the overtake.
And when you're talking about applying pressure, you're talking about filling up their rear view mirror. I mean, are you a headlight flasher?
I don't flash the headlights. I want to sit in that mirror like an oil painting.
I'm going to steal that from you. I really like that.
You can have it.
All right.
So going into the race, you mentioned maybe forcing those mistakes, but 40 minutes, it's a sprint, no pitting. How do you usually take on the 40 minutes mentally, and how are you usually going to attack this now for the Indy road course?
It's just locking in, just being able to run consistent times. I don't have to run the fastest times, but if I can keep it down to within a couple tenths of each other, I think those positions are going to start making themselves up, especially when other people are maybe running half second slower per lap, or maybe they're having one mistake in a lap. That's all it takes with these GT3 cars.
And you are wearing a distinct jersey. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how important community is to sim racing? Because it's such a huge aspect of what we do.
It has absolutely blown up over the last couple of years and just keeps growing as well. I mean, we were talking yesterday about how the advances with the hardware and the software and everything else. And yeah, I do drive for Distinct Gaming. So does Anna Marie over there and Kyle Lowe as well. Primarily Gran Turismo drivers, but we do send several to World Series events at the end of the year, and I'm hoping to go next year.
We definitely have some distinct fans in the chat, so it's always cool to see people come in and rooting for their favorite drivers, manufacturers that we've been talking about.
That's what we like to hear.
There you go. Well, it looks like we got about 1 minute and 50 seconds left to grid. I want to give you full time to get yourself ready to roll.
Thanks, DJ. Thanks, Ash.
Thank you so much. And there we go. That is right. We only have about 1 minute and 50 seconds until we get ready to go for this race. It will be a rolling start around here, as it is in all SRO competition. And so that always adds a little bit more of fun running here for this going. As there we take a live look at the grid here. Ash, working our way down. Let's talk this through as I try to bring up my timing and scoring here. It's been a little bit wonky. As we said, we talked about Brewer, your pole position holder here at this point. Phil Bouchard going to be in P2. Then it's Ethan Oring and Devin Anderson in P4. Kyle Lowe finds himself in P5. Kevin Bohm will be P6. P7 is Celso Neto. And then as we work back into 8th place, it will be Eli Singh, followed by Mike Organ. Working our way back down through the field, Chris Walsh, then Michael Hickman. Behind them, Jacob Little, Sam Nelson, Casey Hall, and Jack Knoll. Rounds out your 15-car grid as there we see the entire field splayed out in front of us. And I've got to imagine with a low grip surface like this at Indianapolis, we're going to see a lot of weaving on this formation lap, trying to get some heat into those tires.
And let's see if I can get this the first try to finish first. First, you must finish, as we were talking about just here with our interviews. Surviving races of attrition sometimes, even if it's just 40 minutes. You never know what can happen to the driver in front of you. The variables in motorsport are huge. There's some you can control and some you absolutely cannot. So making sure you have that reaction time down, reacting well to an incident can make all the difference.
Yeah, it certainly can. And when we talk about reacting to an incident, it's not only reacting to the contact next to you if you get bumped into by another driver, but it's also about reacting to the incident in front of you, knowing how to apply the brake just in the right way to prevent any massive problems, being able to slow down a little bit, maybe speed up to get by an incident, anything like that. There are many different approaches there. Looks like farther back down in the field, I believe that was one of the Porsches, I think. That may have been Celso Neto, a little bit slow to get away. As we take a look at the happiest place in the world, as that is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, my home away from home.
And I do love the graphic that gets put out around the Indy 500 of what exactly can fit in the middle every year.
It's what, all of the Vatican, I think.
A lot of the Big Ten stadiums, if you're a college football fan. Yeah.
It's like the entirety of the Vatican, the Colosseum, I think Capitol Hill, the Parthenon. It's an insane list. And trust me, if you get a chance to go to IMS, you will understand it, because you walk in and just go, oh, Sam Nelson trying to get himself up to speed back around there at this point. Thankfully, no contact on the formation lap, but definitely took a little bit of a detour out into the outside. So there we get a great look, looking down through this infield section. Nelson looks like he's been able to get himself back out and pointed the right way. He'll be starting off in 13th.
We have one of our SRO Motorsports drivers, Daniel Morad, in the Twitch chat just saying, wanted to check in from Daytona, about to go back on track for more laps, but wanted to say hi. Wish I was able to be there as well as be here at the same time. But Morad, thank you so much for stopping by and saying hello and wishing our drivers good luck.
Yeah, Daniel, a great driver there. Obviously did stints with TR3 over the course of this year. Took a sweep at VIR alongside Kenton Cook, who served as Kevin Bohm's co-driver in the Randon Vandals Racing GT4 this year. So very, very happy to see that, and a big thank you and hello to Daniel Morad.
We were talking about locking in earlier. Thinking about how forget about the athlete's mind, right? But sim racing is a whole other beast of its own, especially with all these folks watching you here live from PRI and us commentating right next to you. I can't imagine what our driver's going through as we're gearing towards the green flag.
Yeah, they're going to bring their way around down here through the last couple of corners. This is really the portion of the track when you're going to stop doing that weaving. You're going to lock yourself in, as you said earlier, Ash, and get yourself ready to go and ready to put the power down. Matt Brewer, Phil Bouchard on the lead. Lamborghini and Audi ready to bring us around to the yard of bricks. All eyes will start to turn to the flag stand here as they come out of turn 14. Little bit slow here. Brewer giving a little bit of a test here and there on Bouchard. Everybody lining themselves up. They come along to the standing start grid here as eyes officially do turn towards the flag stand, and we get ready as we look towards the racing tower, and there goes the green. We are racing here in Indianapolis. Brewer not looking like he got the best of getaways there, as Bouchard is going to be able to put a little bit of pressure behind him. I see Kyle Lowe starting to dart out of line a little bit. Also seeing Tevin Anderson trying to make a move, and that's going to be a big move around the outside there for Phil Bouchard, trying to make it work. 2-3 wide coming down through turn 1. Cars turned around on the exit of 1.
Recovering quickly is probably also the name of the game in this 40-minute sprint race here. So we'll get those replays for you to see who exactly turned around there, but positions lost indefinitely, and now making sure you don't let that affect you so much where you're driving poorly and making more mistakes. You got to keep going.
Yeah, it looks like here we've had a couple of drivers that were spun around at the moment. I can tell you that was definitely Michael Hickman. We also saw Devin Anderson spun around, as we mentioned off the top of the go. It looked like Matt Brewer did lose that position to a very aggressive move around the outside by Phil Bouchard in that Audi, as the advanced sim racing driver able to put some good moves down and be able to get that to go. But it looks like here at this point, Brewer is keeping the pressure up, and this is a little bit of what we talked about when we spoke to Michael Hickman, that just keeping that pressure up, not even flashing the headlights, but just trying to be as big as possible in that rear view camera.
I think he said like an oil painting hanging in that rear view mirror. And here we see, at the start we saw some 3 wide. A little bit of argy-bargy, as we like to say here at SRO Motorsports.
As our colleague Calvin Fish would say, some argy-bargy as he got his way around. That was Devin Anderson, by the way, sending a very good move around the outside. A lot of weaving here at this point. Kyle Lowe trying to put some pressure on the back of Ethan Oring as they get ready to break down into turn 1. The Racer's Edge Acura going to look down to the inside. Later on the binders is Kyle Lowe. He's able to get the move done on the OnlyFans Lamborghini, and it looks like here that may be a move coming up from behind. Farther down in the field, Eli Singh not looking like he's had the best of runs, but that's going to be Null that sends a little bit of a move this way and that way. Michael Hickman trying to be able to make a move on Nelson right now as the big Bentley tries to make their way around the outside of the Porsche. This is not an easy move to get done, and it looks like he's going to have to give up the ghost or at least try for a crossover.
Something we love about sports car racing is just battles up and down the grid, regardless of what place it is. Every place matters.
Yeah, it certainly does. Hickman's still trying to fight for that move. They're going to have Jonathan Knoll up ahead of them as they try to be able to get everything together here at this point. This is going to be the battle, Jack Knoll up ahead of them, the battle for P12 right now. Oh, that's Casey Hall having an off coming out of onto Holman Boulevard. The Turner Motorsports BMW driver not having the best of runs. Kevin Boehm, a driver that's looking to make up some positions here at this point. He rides in 7th place at the moment, directly behind Chris Walsh in the Porsche. Is now Ethan Oring trying to be able to get that position back from Kyle Lowe.
It's been an eventful couple of laps. I mean, just 4 minutes in, not even, and I'm sure our live racing stewards might be reviewing some footage. A lot of racing incidents, but making sure that everything's reviewed and fair as we continue racing in this sprint race.
They're going to continue to try to go there. Interesting way in front, Phil Bouchard taking a defensive line, although I'd argue he doesn't need to do it, as the gap between himself and Brewer does stand at 1.2 seconds. Let's go back and take a look at the replay here. Ash, what are you seeing from this field?
I mean, going 3 or 4 wide in turn 1 is never really the best idea, but sometimes you have no option, and as Matt Brewer mentioned, got to be aggressive.
Oh, looks like that's Devin Anderson that we saw in the Tech Sport McLaren, and it looks like he really, through no fault of his own, ran into some problems, went very wide there, trying to get a move done through turn 1, and there was a little bit of that ping pong going on to the right side of him, and that just kind of got into the side of him. Ethan Oring, though, going side by side right now with Kyle Lowe. This battle just continuing on. Oring having to arrest his momentum a little bit, coming onto Holman Boulevard as they now get on the power, and I think that may have just been enough for Kyle Lowe to stay in front.
And these drivers get no breaks. There's no runaway currently. I mean, Brewer still within 1.1 seconds of Bouchard. So these drivers have to be on point. And again, consistency is the name of the game, making sure you're hitting it, because these times we saw in qualifying, they're so close.
Yeah, they certainly are. This is a replay of what we saw a little bit earlier in the race. Looked like a wide run there for Kerry Hall. Ooh, and a little bit of how you doing coming on the outside, and that's going to be some pretty hefty damage there to that Turner Motorsports BMW.
Unfortunately, I believe trying to get back on track, but wasn't aware of what was going on. Eli coming on in through the corner there.
Kevin Boehm looks like he's lost a couple of positions. He's down in 10th place right now. Eli Singh and Chris Walsh have both been able to get by him as they continue to run. Walsh is the highest placed Porsche right now, as it does look like a Volkswagen Group is doing pretty well here at the moment, with Bouchard in the Audi, followed by the Lamborghini. Looks like we've had another off farther back down in the field. This is, I think, what happened to Kevin Boehm here. Oh, Boehm getting a little bit of how you doing there from behind. That would have been the Porsche there, I believe, of Chris Walsh, and that would explain why Boehm fell down those positions to 10th.
I do not want to be a steward for this race. I'm so glad we're here in the commentary booth here at PRI.
You know, I have that reaction pretty much anytime I see car-to-car contact out on the track, Ash.
But I know we see some comments flying in the Twitch and YouTube chat. Let us know what you think as we continue on with the race. We have 34 minutes left, and it seems like it's been an hour because there's been so much going on. But again, this is only a 40-minute sprint race, no mandatory pit stops, and we'll see how the track evolves as well throughout this 40 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to see how it starts to rubber in, obviously, with more of the Pirelli rubber that continues to be put down around this track. That's going to make the track grippier. It's going to allow them to be able to gain more out of the corners. The only caveat to that is that the marbles, those little pieces of rubber that get discarded from the tires, those will start to build up on the outside, and it'll make running wider a little bit harder. Looks like here the battle for P4 is starting to die off a little bit, but in contrast, we could have a battle brewing for the final podium position between Celso Neto and Kyle Lowe. Now, those are two Acura NSX GT3 Evos, and it looks like they're about ready to lock horns.
And I want to note P1 and P2, Matt has been keeping Bouchard within that 1.2, 1.1 range. And again, I said we couldn't really dial back, but it's also maybe a little bit of a game and balance of patience, right? If you do overtake now, then Bouchard has another 33 minutes to overtake Matt. So I wanted to make sure you do those moves at the exact correct time you mean to.
Yeah, exactly. And in here, if you are Matt Brewer, what you're able to do running behind Phil Bouchard is learn. You were able to learn some of his strengths and weaknesses, maybe figure out where you can start to press an advantage, and Bouchard's not going to be able to pick up as many of those little things running in front. Celso Neto, though, makes a little bit of an error coming onto Holman Boulevard, dipping those left side tires off into the grass. Kyle Lowe's going to be able to catch up a little bit more as they continue to get closer. By the way, interestingly here, Devin Anderson, who we saw spun around at the beginning of the race, Anderson in the number 22 Tech Sport McLaren, he is already back up to 7th, and Ash, he holds on to the fastest lap of the race.
And I think it's, again, it's important to know that whatever happens to you, just react positively and keep going, keep pushing. Sometimes we see this in endurance races, especially virtually. Folks might get a little frustrated at incidents and accidents, but if the car is okay and the repairs aren't too long, keep going, because it is a race of attrition. And very important to know with Kyle Lowe and Kevin Boehm, they have that IRL racecraft down. They've raced side by side through corners, 3 wide, 2 wide. So to them, this is another Sunday race day. But some folks here who haven't done that, they might be a little stressed out. They might make those little mistakes that might cause them to spin.
Yeah, it certainly might, as we watch here that battle between Celso Neto and Kyle Lowe. And let's count Ethan Oring in this battle as well. It is now a 3-car fight for the final podium position, with Neto leading Lowe and Oring there. Acura versus Lamborghini, and it just looks like it keeps shifting back and forth here. The paradigm going this way and going that way. We're going to take a look at a replay here, though, at this point. This is one of the Porsches a little farther back in the field. I believe this is Nelson, Sam Nelson, that we're going to see. Trying to take a look to the inside there of that. That's a little bit of an over-eager move, I would have to say, down to the inside of the Vandelay Racing Aston Martin.
I won't take that personally. But I'll remember it. Here we go, we 30 minutes left and some change. I believe Kyle Lowe still charging up the field. Again, Kyle trying to make up for the additional fuel he put in his car yesterday, and he has something to prove, which I believe kind of fuels him and gets that momentum in his driving craft here today.
Yeah, I really think it does as well. Great battle a little bit farther back down. This is going to be Sam Nelson and Null, and it looks like Nelson's going to be able to send a move around the outside, coming down on the back straightaway here at this point. That's going to be able to play out for the Porsche driver in that World of Racing #1 machine. Oh, but contact there with the McLaren. 1, 2, 3, clatter coming down through the back half of the track.
Just watching, I think I heard a few gasps in the crowd as they were watching intently here. Again, I think, as someone in chat stated, as Hinchcliffe has said, don't want to be someone in the stewards or the balance of performance room. So
Yeah, certainly don't as well. We're going to check back in on the front of the field. Once again, that battle for P3, Celso Neto, Kyle Lowe, Ethan Oring. And let's also count Mike Orgen into this battle, or Ethan Oring, excuse me, into this battle as well in that Bentley. He has joined into this equation. And so now the battle for P3 starting to stretch itself out over the course of these 4 drivers. But Ash, let's go ahead and take a look at the replay here at this point. This is going to be Jack Knoll trying to make that move here, coming down through the final couple of corners. A little bit late on the binders there.
And unfortunately, Jacob getting collected there. I mean, one of those things you can't control in sim racing, but just knowing how to react maybe during or after, it makes a huge difference.
Oh, and it looks like here that we're actually catching a little bit of lap traffic. I think that's Eli Singh up in front of this battle. Kyle Lowe has dropped down the order. He is now being caught by Kevin Bohm here at this point. So something clearly happening in that battle up for P3 as Bohm says a big move down to the inside coming off of IndyCar 1. He's not going to get it done. Looking for the crossover there coming through turn 13 as now they work their way onto turn 14. Let's take a look at the replay, find out exactly what happened. Kyle Lowe going to be the second in line here as they go down to the braking zone, and just a little bit too much momentum, and that is a little bit of Acura on Acura violence as it will send both Kyle Lowe and Celso Neto tumbling down through the order.
And who takes advantage of incidents like that, right? Are you standing back from these battles and making sure you jump on those mistakes and when those incidents happen, gaining positions because of others?
Yeah, exactly, and I think right now Ethan Oring is the driver who has most benefited from that, and I'll make an argument there that Mike Organ also able to make a big benefit from that as well. We check in on the battle right now for P6, Celso Neto, who we just saw involved in that previous incident. He's under a little bit of pressure here in the form of Karis Callis Racing's Chris Walsh, who takes a look coming down the max straightaway, not able to get it done here at this point, but like we talked about, filling that rearview mirror like an oil painting, just trying to take up as much space as possible.
And some folks in the chat saying only full tilt action allowed. Chill is not possible. No, for us or for the drivers. If you're familiar with endurance racing, especially from 24 hours, you might hear the wackiest things in the commentary booth as you're trying to grab things to talk about. Some famous incidents, for example, in Le Mans 24, talking about cupcake recipes. But here we have non-stop action for the next 27 minutes out of this 40-minute race.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that a senatorial filibuster in endurance racing has in common is you'll start pulling out some random things to talk about. I think that was also sentence scoregami that we just hit there at that point. Kevin Bohm, though, has been able to get by Kyle Lowe behind him, and Bohm being very aggressive, almost weaving back and forth there down the front straightaway. Chris Walsh, though, keeping up the pressure to the back of Celso Neto. And I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised by this. I thought with the pace that we saw earlier from Neto that he would be able to sort of scamper off down the road and really be able to get himself back into that position, but it just doesn't look like he was able to at this point. Kevin Bohm, though, as we mentioned earlier, able to get the move by Kyle Lowe. That'll put him up into 9th position here at this point, and this is kind of cool. This is a former TC champion and a current TCX driver, so really going to show here the experience and the ladder system that SRO wants to promote so well.
Someone in chat mentioned that Bouchard must be checked out. I mean, up to 4 seconds, if not more, ahead here of P2. But looking at him, super focused. I mean, again, any mistake, 4 seconds is not that huge of a gap. If something were to happen, hitting those curves, losing the rear end of the car, etc. So you want to make sure you're still putting down those laps and also managing lapped traffic. If you're new to sports car racing or maybe not as familiar, it is up to the overtaking car to pass safely. It is not up to the car that is being passed to move over.
Yeah, you've got to make that move clearly and decisively, and if there is contact, 9 times out of 10, they are going to err on the side of the car that had the position originally. So we'll have to see what exactly they decide to do in some of those. We did also get a message coming through that it said race control does appear to be busy this time. That's actually coming from within our own production team. Kevin Bohm, though, this time down the front straightaway and across the yard of bricks, not making that defensive move on Kyle Lowe. Lowe is just going to stick in behind the crowd strike by Riley driver here at this point, as the sun is beginning to set a little bit. It's about 6:33 p.m. virtual standard time here at Indianapolis. As we look up through the field, Celso Neto still holding off Chris Walsh. And I once again really have to give credit here to Chris Walsh. He is doing a fantastic job. I thought Neto was going to be able to just run. I thought he was going to be able to move down the road, get himself back into that maybe top 4, top 3 positions, but Walsh is holding on to the back of this Acura.
Something very important to note, I mean, you don't want to drive constantly looking back because you might be losing time and not realizing it, but you also don't want to be too focused on someone in front of you in case they make a mistake and you just copy them, which happens a lot in racing as well. So, I mean, driving defensively, but don't lose that lap time and making sure you're still being consistent.
Yeah, it's that fine line you kind of have to tread in between the two, between driving aggressively and driving defensively, driving in front, driving behind. You don't want to not be looking in your rearview mirror because you need to be, well, I say rearview mirror, most of the time it's rearview cameras nowadays for a lot of these cars, but you don't want to be ignoring what's going on behind you. You need to have that situational awareness, but you need to be aware of what they're doing, not let it dictate how you're driving. One driver has thrown a little bit of caution to the wind of that. That's going to be Kevin Boehm in the background again, doing a little bit of weaving down the front straightaway.
Kevin Boehm doing a great job defending against Kyle Lowe. Speaking of defensive and aggressive, keeping those lap times, it's great to see 2 IRL drivers using their techniques here in the virtual world.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I think it goes to show you, obviously, both of these drivers this year in GT4 and in TCX, respectively, both able to practice and race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Kevin Boehm actually got 3 bites at the apple, considering we had the rained-out race earlier in the year, and that race being rescheduled to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So they got to race 3 times over the course of that weekend. It was a little bit strange. All of us, I was talking to Kevin a little bit afterwards. He got done with it and then got done with the second race on Saturday and said, wait, this is weird. I have to do this again tomorrow? I already raced twice. What's going on?
You mentioned Kevin Boehm and the Random Vandals affiliation. We do have in chat the Raccoons send their regards, as the Random Vandal mascot and icon is the raccoon. Very, very awesome. So yes, the Raccoons send their regards as Kevin defensively keeps up with Kyle Lowe and trying to catch up to Eli Singh here.
Yeah, trying to close into the back of them. The gap's only about 2.9 seconds, and I think one of the things that Kevin's going to have working in his favor is the fact that Chris Walsh now finds himself under pressure from Eli Singh. And that pressure from behind, that's going to slow down that Ferrari a little bit. That's going to put him in a compromised position. He's not going to be able to take the times and the laps that he necessarily wants to. And we're not going to be talking about monumental gains here at this point, but that could just be enough to get Boehm maybe within draft range, start to pull up a little bit more on those cars in front, and maybe get him in conversation for a P5 or a top 5 before this day is said and done.
We have Cecil Neto here with a plus 5-second penalty. And we'll get a message from race control exactly what is going on. Eli Singh with also a 5-second penalty. And 5 seconds is pretty large. If you think about it, we were talking about how Matt Brewer is 4.67 seconds currently. So that 5 seconds is a make or break for a podium position.
Yeah, it certainly can be. It is, I believe, the most lenient penalty that can be given out by race control, but it really does go to show you just how stringent and how devastating any sort of penalty can be for these drivers. What would be absolutely terrible for them is if they were to get a drive-through penalty here at this point. That would be the worst. Oh my goodness, is our timing and scoring tower is lighting up like a
You get a
Christmas
penalty. Everyone gets a penalty.
All right, let's see if I can read this off. Devin Anderson, Celso Neto, Chris Walsh, Eli Singh, and Nelson all being addressed with 5-second penalties.
Our race control just letting us know they're trying to keep up as well as they can, and they'll let us know momentarily. Yeah, but what you see on your screen now, 5-second penalties across the board.
Yeah, and that's going to be really detrimental. But the other thing is that these drivers, it looks like the majority of these penalties are being issued out here for avoidable contact, and that's the crucial word there, Ash, avoidable. But the one thing that is going to change the game here is I actually surreptitiously look over my shoulder and keep an eye on the drivers. they do have that relative box in front of them. They do have standings on the side of their screen. So much like in real life when drivers would be told by their crews who has a penalty, drivers like, for example, Kevin Bohm in 9th place is going to be made aware these drivers in front of me have a penalty. I don't have to race them as hard, and I can walk away with P5 potentially.
And it might work out in Kevin's favor because he doesn't know that. He might just keep racing that very aggressive race instead of maybe leaning back, but not that I think Kevin would ever do that, because Kevin is a true racer at heart. So he's going to keep putting down amazingly consistent laps and defending against Kyle, maybe not knowing those penalties are there.
Ooh, a little bit of a wide run there for Eli Singh. That's going to open up a little bit of an opportunity for Kevin Bohm. Not that he needed one. To be able to bring his way up on through. Yeah, as you said, absolutely tenacious racing driver. He is always pushing. But I've got to give this to Kevin. I love the way he drives. He is super aggressive. He loves to push the envelope. But I have never once seen him act in anger. I have never once seen Kevin drive any way that you would deem unsporting. He is always remarkably clean in the way he drives. He has had some of the worst luck I've seen in the past year, however. He's been clattered into more than a few times, but Kevin prides himself at driving clean. Clean always prevails.
I think sometimes when you start driving emotionally, especially those stronger emotions like you mentioned, anger or frustration, they really can get to you.
Yeah, they really can, and as a racing driver, you have to push those emotions down. As Eli Singh actually making contact there with Chris Walsh up in front of him, giving almost a little bit of a bump and run there, going through the right-hander, and here comes Bohm. He's got one on Singh. Singh backs off, a little bit of contact there from behind. Chris Walsh goes spinning around. It's an absolute kerfluffle coming down through turn 5. Are they going to be able to get themselves sorted out? That's Celso Neto that's had an incident. Somehow Eli Singh is back up into top position. Contact there with Chris Walsh and Kevin Bohm, banging and bumping and banging, finally sorting themselves out by the time they get down into turn 7, and a big move in the back there for Kyle Lowe. That's going to be a big contact.
That's going to be another one for our live stewards to look at, as we just gave out a few penalties here for 5 seconds. And this is where conversation starts happening in the sim racing community. Whose apex was it? What car was ahead? And those are the things that our stewards are looking for when they watch these replays.
Yeah, and those stewards will have a full 360-degree angle. More contact there. I think that was Celso Neto and Eli Singh that got into it. Neto looking to be a little bit deeper on the binders. Now, I don't know if that was an early break point there for Singh, or if Neto just came in a little bit too deep. Once again, we're going to have to review with the stewards and find out what they think. Okay. Let's take a breath, let's calm things down a little bit, and let's look back at a battle that is still going on, but a calmer battle that is going on right now. This is up at the front of the field right now. This is going to be Mike Morgan trying to chase down Ethan Oring in front of him. Bentley versus Lamborghini.
And something to note too, I mean, all the incidents happening, let's also take fact on Bouchard and Brewer racing very cleanly, avoiding those incidents, not letting it get to them. They might be seeing those 5-second penalties, doing those calculations, but they're running their race cleanly. It's also one thing we have to compliment those who drive aggressively and make those moves, but those who are racing also conservatively, or more so cleanly and just doing their thing, not letting anything get to them. We also got to shout them out.
Yeah, we certainly do have to shout them out, and obviously the two key drivers that have been doing that up to this point are Phil Bouchard and Matt Brewer up at the front of the field, but Oring and Morgan both have been doing a fantastic job of keeping things clean, keeping things together. All right, let's go back and take a look at the replay here of what we saw. So that was contact there with Singh and Walsh coming down through the right-hander of turn 4. They come down into 5 right now. There we see the opportunity for Kevin Bohm. Bohm goes into the corner. That's going to be the number 93 that makes contact there behind. That's Kyle Lowe. That sets up a 3-wide situation coming down through turn 7. Singh is going to have the advantage here at this point. Bohm trying to slot himself in line. A little bit of contact there with Chris Walsh, side to side there. I think that was just a misunderstanding. We then head down onto the binders. Lowe gets laid into the corner, makes contact there with Singh. Singh's going to be able to carry on at this point, and Bohm is the big gainer out of all of that. He's up to P6.
Something to also denote is these rigs are a little bit different than what they might have at home, or very different. So we don't have the triple monitor setup currently here today, so they might not actually see who's next to them side by side.
Well, and let's take into account the other thing here, that just the mere seating position for some of these drivers can be a little bit different. This is what we call a GT style setup, which means that you are a little bit more upright in the way that you're sitting. It's almost like you're sitting on the floor and the pedals are out in front of you. Compare that to a what we call formula style setup, and that's going to be where your legs are actually lifted up off the ground and you're sort of laying back as you would be more in an IndyCar or a Formula One or something like that, a single-seater type of car.
And we all have our preferences. You're mentioning the pedals, the seating style. I mean, it could be the lighting in your room. It could be your monitor, your FOV. This isn't your rig. It's just so much different than what you're so used to practicing day in and day out. And look at this battle here for the last step on the podium.
Yeah, Loring and Oregon really having a good one here, but that battle from behind that we saw all of the contact with, certainly not going away here at this point. Looks like that's a McLaren there farther back in the field. I think that's Jack Knoll. But the battle now up for P3, starting to get a little bit spicy as Oring has to go defensive down into turn 1, trying to hold off an attack here from Mike Oregon. Oregon trying to push as much as he can, trying to get that big Bentley up into a podium position.
And this is where racecraft comes into play, right? You might not be braking exactly where you are because you're right behind the person in front of you with those mere seconds. So you want to be paying attention, but you also don't want to be mimicking them in case they make a mistake, and then you just copy them because you're so locked in the zone. So much of a mental game as much as it is physical here in racing, IRL and virtual.
Yeah, and we like to call that target fixation, and it's something
Thank you
that
so much.
I
was like, there's a word for this because I keep doing it.
It's target fixation, and it can be with simply taking a wrong line. It can be with if actually the car spins in front of you and distracts you off of your own line, that you can miss the apex a little bit. It's a genuine thing that does happen, and so you've got to be aware of it. But the other thing that I would say here for this battle between Oring and Oregon, they've got to be a little bit careful. Devin Anderson is only about 1.8 seconds behind them, and so if this battle for P3 starts to get especially volatile here and really starts to fire off, Anderson's going to find himself in a great position to close on in.
Absolutely, and again, Bouchard kind of putting down those laps, 17 out in the current 12 minutes and 30 seconds we have left. Matt slowly chipping away at those seconds, but if you look at our live timing, which is available to you, that we're also using, you can see those sector times and see who is faster, where, and why as you're watching along the track.
Yeah, very crucial to do. Celso Neto has seemed to be a very, very quick driver. Oh, we've got another penalty being levied out to Celso Neto. That's going to be an additional 5-second penalty. That is going to bring his grand total up to 10 seconds. And Ash, that is not a competition that Neto wants to be winning. And
I do wonder if this is just the first of many, as we saw previously, as our live stewards are just going through everything and making sure that they dish these out fairly.
Yeah, I wonder that as well. Looked like there was a little bit of front to rear contact there between Neto and Singh coming down into turn 1. No harm, no foul. Let's give a little bit of love, though, to the two drivers at the front of the field, because really, with the exception of the first 2 laps, we haven't called their name. We haven't talked about them. We haven't shown them here at this point. Matt Brewer, your pole sitter, beaten around the outside going into turn 1, but Matt has driven a fantastic race here in this Hyperion Racing number 26 Lamborghini.
Yeah, and hats off, and again, these focus faces. Everyone is so in tune right now to what is happening, blocking out everything around them, regardless of how many people watching these final laps here at the PRI Esports Arena, presented by SRO.
And again, we check back in on the battle a little bit farther back in the field. Eli Singh trying to close down on Celso Neto, trying to see if there's a little bit of running there to be had. Ferrari versus Acura. We've seen this battle many, many a time over the course of the season. Obviously, the new-ish Ferrari 296 introduced this year. Proud to say that the first win on American soil was taken in SRO competition, a back-to-back victory at Road America for Conquest Racing in that Ferrari 296. That is the first victory that car was able to take on North American soil.
And don't forget, you can see these cars in real life if you check out the Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by NWS website and see where they're racing near you for the 2024 season, because that calendar is out right now.
Yes, it certainly is, and if you're unable to join in live, jump on over to Twitch, jump on over to the GT World YouTube, and check it out. Whether you want to hear Right, whoa, that is some perfect synchronized spinning there at that point. Celso Neto and Eli Singh, I'm not actually sure if there was contact there, Ash, or if that was just a moment of both losing rear traction at the same time.
We just said target fixation too much, and we might have done that ourselves. Might have manifested that.
We may have.
A double pirouette.
It's a rare feat, but we do occasionally see it. Phil Bouchard, by the way, up at the front of the field in that number 73 Audi here at this point. A dominant performance. Not nearly as dominant as we saw yesterday necessarily, but 5 seconds up at the front of the field, under 10 minutes to go, and this has just got to be a simple case of keep it on here if you are Phil Bouchard.
And I wanted to know, we might see some comments flying around, but some of these folks, this is their first time racing side by side, especially in an environment like this. So maybe learning that racecraft is something new to them. But if you are a little bit newer to sim racing, or maybe you're not, you might know the advice is that you have to practice. So you have to get into those lobbies, those leagues, maybe with friends, maybe officials, and just getting that practice down, learning that racecraft. And it happens. You're going to have a learning curve, but you need to practice and get that experience.
Yeah, you really and truly do. You need to have that. And racecraft really is the key. It doesn't matter if you're able to put down a fast lap or two, even if you're able to put down 20 fast laps in a row within a tenth of a second of each other. If you don't know how to go wheel to wheel, if you tense up, if you feel your body start to sort of go when you go wheel to wheel, that's going to be a huge detriment to your racing ability, because it is so rare that you see a breakaway like we're seeing here for Phil Bouchard. 9 times out of 10, you are going to have to be side by side with another driver, duking it out, making those passes in order to get a race victory.
Regardless of what sim or whatever car you use, either those MX-5 lobbies here in the GT3 for ACC, whatever it is, you have to learn that racecraft. So qualifying well, but also making sure you can race, like DJ is exactly saying, side by side. You might have a slower driver in front of you, a driver behind you passing, but not letting it get to you mentally, making those silly mistakes. It's a little bit of everything, but you got to put that practice in, because you get out what you put in with sim racing.
Yeah, you really and truly do. And the wonderful thing about, as you said, whatever sim it is more and more options are becoming available to race by yourself, quote unquote. Race with simulated opponents, so you're able to gain that racecraft. You're able to gain that ability to run side by side without running a risk. Now, we do have a driver down into pit lane. This is Kyle Lowe, and that number 93 Racer's Edge Acura, that's taken a beating over the course of today. I wonder if there's maybe some suspension problems there for Kyle, or something's just not right on the car.
Hopefully we'll figure out soon from our producers. Maybe get Kyle up here to talk about his racecraft and how he's been doing from yesterday and today, and some differences that he might have spotted throughout the track. But here we have Eli Singh, just bouncing back from the incidents and kind of going through those racecraft learnings that we've been talking about. Doing a great job now in P9, but does have that 5-second penalty.
Yeah, and thankfully here it does look like that the gap between himself and Hickman is going to be large enough that he's not going to suffer a penalty as a result of that. Because right now he does look like he'll be in relatively clean sailing there. Yeah, that gap is going to be about 25 seconds, so he's not going to have to worry about losing a position here. But he would like to try to get by Celso Neto, but that's not the way to do it. Very good save through turn 6. Thankfully able to keep that Ferrari 296 underneath him, but not without losing a couple of tenths of a second, if not a full second in that slide.
With 6 minutes left, DJ, are we going to see any full sends here as folks trying to get those extra positions, maybe trying to get that podium spot? What are we expecting here with the 6 minutes? What can you do?
I mean, what you can do here at this point is put it all on the line. A lot of these drivers coming into this point in the race are going to be racing at about 8 or 9 tenths. They're going to be at that point where you're pushing hard, but you're not going full send. I think in the final laps, especially if you're an Eli Singh, if you're, maybe looking at a Mike Organ, you're going to go into full send mode. You're going to want to push. You're going to want to go as hard as you can. We may have even seen, I wonder, because that gap between Mike Organ and Ethan Oring hasn't opened up by about 2 seconds. I wonder if Mike Organ was maybe saving his tires a little bit, holding back, trying to cool down that Pirelli rubber to launch a full assault here shortly.
Yeah, this 40-minute race, no pit stops, so you got to be smart with how you attack and maybe get those positions as the track evolves. We're talking about laying down the rubber and the tire management and the heat. And now here in Indianapolis, we just left golden hour and going into the last couple minutes into the evening, but we do have 4 minutes and 50 seconds left, and this beautiful onboard of Eli Singh.
Yeah, and you can really see there, I love that he's got a GoPro slapped up on his head there to be able to give the full. And there, as they're going to be able to continue to go and work their way on through. But right now, Eli Singh just trying to get what he can. Not sure how he's feeling there about the run off of the line. A little bit of yes, a little bit of no, a little bit of shake of the head maybe. But he's still trying to get some pressure there to the back of Celso Neto.
So again, Eli Singh is, for example, a streamer that we talked about that is here today in the Pro Invitational. We have a mix of streamers, content creators, folks you might know from your sim racing Discord communities, and of course real life drivers from the SRO paddock. So maybe learning about everyone's and how each other races and things like that. Those are the things that account for in racing, because they don't race together all that often. But keeping close to Celso Neto has been very impressive.
And remember, Neto here is one of the drivers that has that 10-second penalty, so Singh is going to be aware of that. Singh only has a 5-second penalty, so he can theoretically just hold behind Celso Neto here at this point, not have to make that pass, and he will be granted 8th place position when everything is said and done. But telling a driver not to make a pass on the driver in front of you is kind of like telling water not to be wet. It's just not going to work. Drivers want to fight.
I mean, you mentioned, DJ, yesterday that a driver, if you were to ask them, would they rather win on plus 25 seconds or do they want to win on that wheel-to-wheel battle? It's that wheel-to-wheel battle that is why we love racing.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that's what you live for. I mean, how many times have we seen drivers, no matter what series you're talking about, get out of the car after a 30-second victory, pump their fists in the air, be happy about it and all of that. But when they come out of the car after going wheel-to-wheel on a photo finish, there is a level of excitement that you can't capture unless you are an Olympic sprinter taking gold. I mean, that is the only comparison I can find.
My favorite is when they slap the hood of the car, like, this puppy can do only used on Sundays, you know? It's that joy we love to see, pure joy emotion in racing, which there's a lot of.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. I mean, there is no better show of exuberance than on the podium. It's why whatever it is that I always love to be able to watch the podium, and why I am so blessed to be the podium announcer for SRO is I love being able to share that experience with the drivers. As we ride on board with Eli Singh, he is wheeling this thing. You could hear the tire squeal on board that car late in the corner coming down into turn 13. He is hustling Celso Neto, as I think Neto may have just made contact with the outside wall coming out of turn 14.
And speaking of emotions, that adrenaline kind of amplifies everything times 10. So let's hear side by side. Will Eli complete the pass?
He's going to try to go the long way around. That's not going to work. Tries a little bit of a cutback, but I think that the interior curbing there scuppered that Ferrari's chances a little bit. Now the Acura in front of him going to be able to hold off here for the moment. Gets a bad run there, though, coming through turn 4. Going to try to be able to hold it as they go down through 5 right now into 6. Defensive line for Celso Neto as they try to hold down. We keep an eye on where your leader is here at this point. Bouchard looks like he's coming down through turn 14 right now, so that's going to be 1 lap to go here at the line for your leader. And for the rest of the field, for these two on your screen, it's about 1.5 laps.
I'm looking here at this battle between P3 and P4. Matt, 0.7, kind of chipped away. It was a little bit, second. We weren't sure. So much time left, and then now 57 seconds left. Will he make the move?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. I think Mike Organ here holding back, saving the tires on that Bentley. We talked about earlier the front engine design, the frankly heavier chassis on that British mark makes it so that he is able to push a little bit more into it. He's able to give a little bit more going through the corners. He's able to push as much as he wants to going down through these lines, and he is going to try to be able to get everything he can out and try to make this pass on Ethan Oring and that OnlyFans Racing Lamborghini number 100 directly in front of him.
This racing has been so good with so many incidents and passes and everything in between that I wish there were 57 minutes left.
I wish there were as well, but Ash, unfortunately, we've only got about 5 seconds left here as the clock officially hits 0, and we take a live look at Phil Bouchard coming out of turn 11 right now, down into 12. 13 and 14. He's got a little bit of lap traffic in front of him to negotiate, but with a gap of about 5 seconds, he's going to be able to back off. The Canadian driver coming out of turn 14 right now. He is going to look towards the flag stand and see the most beautiful sight in racing. That is a waving checkered flag as Phil Bouchard takes victory here at PRI.
And look at that joy. That's exactly what we're talking about. Congratulations. The fist bump, the large smile on Phil's face. There's nothing better than that.
And behind him, it looks like that is going to be Ethan Oring able to hold off the attack there from Mike Organ. A great display of defensive driving there for Ethan to be able to claim that final podium position. Let's check back in on the battle between Eli Singh and Celso Neto. Remember, Singh does not need to make this pass. Neto has a 10-second penalty in front of him as they come down through the corner. So that does mean that Singh, even with his 5-second penalty, will be granted 8th place position as they come to the line.
But there's always that hope that you can pass and then gain that extra time from that penalty from the folks in front of Celso Neto as well. But well earned, well fought from all our competitors here today. It's been incredible, and congratulations to our podium, but don't forget, we do have to wait till the post-race penalties kind of start rolling in. Our stewards have a lot to look at as you've been watching. DJ, what's been your favorite part of the race?
I mean, I just have to say that back and forth that we saw at about the mid-race point with Kevin Bohm right into the mix of it, Devin Anderson, Kyle Lowe, trying to be able to get themselves up forward. That back and forth, a little bit of side-to-side contact as we look behind us, the ASR crew bouncing up and down, incredibly excited for Phil Bouchard. There he is on your screen. He gets the hello from his teammates. They actually have a booth right next to us, so we've been talking to him all weekend, and it's pretty fantastic to see. But a dominant drive here for Phil, and I've had the pleasure of being able to commentate on Phil Bouchard for multiple years at this point. He is a world-class driver, one of the smoothest in the business, and that is why I think he was able to take victory here.
Especially here at PRI, because you have vendors from all across the racing industry, so it feels kind of cool that you might be in front of maybe a future supplier, partner, etc., and you just won this race so smoothly, as you said.
Exactly. All right, here we do have what we believe to be the final results here at this point. Now, this is with the penalties applied. It's going to be Bouchard, Brewer, Oring, Oregon, and Devin Anderson, your top 5. And then as we look down, Kevin Bohm will get 6th place. Then it's Chris Walsh, Eli Singh, Celso Neto dropping down as a result of that 10-second penalty. Hickman, Little, Nelson, Null, and Lowe, your top 15, indeed, the drivers there on the day. Now we're going to come back here live. We're waiting for the drivers to come on over and chat with us here for a moment. Looks like here that they will be coming to join us shortly as they will be ready to go. I'm excited to talk with them here at this point as, we had some great racing action out on the track. Phil's just getting himself ready, doing a little bit of a debrief with the team. That's right, even in virtual racing, we do a debrief. It's pretty fantastic.
And it's something we can talk about here, but Phil, come on down so we can give you the microphone and we can congratulate you. We got some GG's rolling in through the chat. Congratulations on that win. Tell us what was like turn 1, lap 1, and then running away with that.
Actually, it was my first race on ACC, so I had no experience at all. I just wanted to survive, and then I think it was Matt beside me. He kind of braked a little early, so I said, why not send it towards the outside? And I got the overlap done, and then just focusing on keeping the tires alive, which didn't really happen. I was trying to keep them alive, but man, this Audi burns the rear tires. So yeah, the last 15 minutes were really tricky. I kind of backed off a little bit because then you had a gap, and yeah, just trying to bring it home.
I mean, you did an absolutely fantastic job, and we have to apologize. You did such a fantastic job. We hardly showed you on the broadcast.
Come on, guys.
We were following some battles through the field. Did you have any scary moments out there outside of the tires?
Absolutely, yeah. The last 15 minutes, as I said, I kind of got loose a couple of times. Also, there was a time where a lapped car was behind me, or actually in front of me, that's better, and spun, so I had to kind of hit the brakes to avoid the contact. But yeah, other than that, it was just like trying to stay concentrated because there's a lot of noise. There's you guys talking, so I was trying to stay in the mood and just focusing on doing laps and laps.
Well, we all know that I have a penchant for being quiet, so I'm sure I wasn't distracting at all for you.
Not at all.
Well, are we going to convert you over to ACC? We're going to see you on this side for
Lately, so I was here. It did great, so maybe I can do more.
You've definitely proved yourself here.
Yeah, you certainly have. Phil, anybody you'd like to shout out before we let you go?
You guys, SRO, PRI for letting this event, Fanatic for the gear as well, and all the guys, Advanced Sim Racing, Advanced Motorsport, they're all there. I'm in eSport because of these guys, so thanks to Frank, Mark, and Nick, the 3 owners. That's it.
All right, well, fantastic. Phil Bouchard, your victor here.
Thanks.
An absolute well-deserved congratulations. We're going to move right things along then. Matt Brewer, we got a chance to talk to the pole sitter a little bit earlier. Matt,
Welcome back.
welcome back. Looks like you got a little bit out brakes coming into turn 1, but outside of that, a pretty calm, consistent, and smooth race.
Yeah, turn 1 didn't go the way I wanted it to. I just wanted to play it safe, just keep the car clean, and then unfortunately with about half an hour to go, I had a slow puncture on the right rear. So as soon as I heard you're losing pressure on the right rear, I knew it was over. So
We wondered about that because it looked like you were kind of managing that gap a little bit. And then, I mean, how do you as a driver kind of account for that on a sim like this? How do you hold everything together?
to be honest, just be careful. Because as soon as I started to get that slow puncture, it was pulling pressure out of my right rear pretty quick. And I started sliding all over the place, especially coming out of some of the medium speed turns. I was losing the back end, catch and slide. So, I mean, it was really tricky, and I'm just happy I brought it home.
I mean, you said it was over, but P2, nothing to look down upon. That's incredible. I mean, you're talking about practicing, making sure you got everything done, and do you feel that you did everything that you could, and are you proud of your P?
Absolutely. I'm so proud. I had a feeling all day my race pace wasn't great. I knew qualifying was definitely there, obviously. And then I'm so happy with P2. I kind of put it in my mind this morning, I'm like, top 5? Okay, because I didn't know what the competition would be like. So to come away with a P2 second step on the podium is absolutely incredible.
Well, it's well-deserved, Matt. Anybody you'd like to shout out here before we let you go?
Shout out my boys, Hyperion Racing. Those guys are absolutely amazing. They're pushing me each and every day to become a better driver. So shout out Nathan, Turner, Greg, Floyd, Alex, the whole crew. They are absolutely incredible.
Absolutely incredible, and an absolutely incredible drive from you.
Thank
Great
you so
to
much.
see you up here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've got time for one more interview. It looks like Ethan Oring coming home here for OnlyFans Racing. Ethan, we got to start at the end here because you had some pressure coming in at the end and in the middle and really all over in this race.
Yeah, I had a lot of pressure from that Bentley from behind. It seemed like every time I made a little mistake, he would just come in closer and closer. There were some sections where I would gap the Bentley a little bit, but then he would just come right up in the straightaways. So it was really hard to pull away from him.
Well, I mean, talk to me a little bit about managing that gap. It looked like in kind of, let's call it the third quarter of the race, you had about a 2-second gap. Was that, you think, maybe just down to tire management a little bit, or what was that? And then what was it like at the final couple of laps when you saw that gap come down to under a second?
Yeah, it was a lot about tire management. There was 1 or 2 lap traffic I had to get through. But every time, like I said, the tires would come off, start to fall off, I would need to make adjustments to the car. And while I'm doing that, he's slowly coming back up. And then I have to get in the zone again and try to pull the gap away.
I mean, you mentioned getting in the zone and feeling that pressure. Can you kind of describe to viewers, like, how do you do that, or how do you block out and not just drive like you're looking back, but make sure you're putting those
I gotta
marks
say, it's a lot harder here than at home. I got the cameras right in front of me, the speaker right there, the TV I can see. Every time I see my car on the screen, I would lose focus a little bit and try to help me. Didn't really help. But it was definitely a learning experience. It was a lot of fun. It was very difficult to try to keep it on the track. But yeah, I had some incidents from behind the start, which sent me back. But other than that, it was pretty good.
Keep getting that heart rate down now, right?
Yeah,
Battle.
I was sweating a lot, yeah.
I can imagine. Well, Ethan, a fantastic drive for you.
Thank
Anybody
you.
you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Thank my parents, thank you guys, thank my girlfriend and her grandparents and her family. And I'd like to thank Delta Sport for the support this weekend. And yeah,
Well,
that's
Ethan,
about it.
it was a great drive, my friend.
Thank you
We
very
enjoyed
much.
the heck watching you out
Thank
there.
you.
Thank you so very much. Ethan Oring, your third place driver here today. And Ash, that's going to cap off what was another great day of racing action.
It was incredible here at PRI. Thank you everyone for watching and then tuning in from the Twitch and YouTube chat here at the PRI Esports Invitational, our pro playoffs. And we got to thank our sponsors for making this happen. SRO, AWS, CrowdStrike, Fanatec, PRI, of course, again, for having us here and having us host this event. And of course, where we raced on ACC. Thank you guys so much.